Today I'm in conversation with Chris from the Bass Channel, and as far as I'm concerned, the Bass Channel is the gold standard for bass related reviews and demos. In this conversation with Chris, you're going to find out how the Bass Channel got started, what Chris has in store this October, or should I say Wahctober, his approaches and techniques in creating video content, how the Bass Channel is going to be bigger than Disney, and how to serve yourself first. All that and a lot more in this conversation with Chris.
Thank you for joining me today. How's your morning been?
No, it's actually been quite nice. I'm in Las Vegas. My mom is actually in town. She's got some other business out here, but she's been staying here while she's in town. So she's out doing what she has to do. So this week is kind of more of a family visit. I did a big recording for my day job yesterday, and today's just kind of spent. This is where I spend most of my time. This is where I work. So it's been going pretty well.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I know the feeling, stuck behind the desk all the time, and people think that you're just playing bass all day and trying out new pedals, and that's
the smallest part of the job.
I know. I guess I mentioned it earlier. I'm a big fan of your channel. I've been watching you guys since last year when lockdown hit. I'm sure I must have seen videos beforehand, but when lockdown started for me, I just went through all your back catalog. And it sounds a bit cheesy, but do you have a favorite video that you've made or one you're most proud of?
There's actually, and we'll probably have to get into this a little bit later. I think the video that I'm the most proud of, as far as in terms of the planning and the execution and the amount of effort that went into it, was my ever controversial video titled "Active Pickups Are Better Than Passive Pickups." That was one. Most of the ones where they're more exploratory, like we did the "Do Electric Instruments Sound Better with Age," was literally 366 days of work for that one video. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the 5 bass players, 1 song was a fun idea that we did that kind of didn't go as successfully as I had hoped. But those kind of things are, for me, the most fun and the most creatively gratifying. As far as the pedal demos go, like you had alluded to earlier, you kind of get into a groove and you make a template and you make a series out of it that we don't stray too far from. It's always ever evolving, and you'll see those little changes as it goes. But I mean, obviously, there's pedals that stick out in my mind. Like a lot of the Darkglass stuff was always really fun. The Tech 21, the Geddy Lee, the new one was really fun to do. I love fuzzes. Putting the Ampeg videos together were fun. So it's to a degree, they're all fun. There have been a couple duds, and at the moment they're escaping me. But but yeah, I mean, I do like the more creative ones, because at one point the pedal thing starts to become kind of the same thing to a degree.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I guess there are some YouTubers that sort of just fall into the formula, right? I'm just doing this forever now. And I can sympathize with you in a sense that you want to branch out and just do different things and make it fun for you. And I'm the same. I myself, I'm trying new things, and it's difficult to find that crossover between what you enjoy and what you think your audience will enjoy. So I really, I sympathize with that. And I'm glad to hear that you're still experimenting and you're not just set in doing pedals all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I got into the channel predominantly because I do enjoy gear. I'm a little bit of a gear geek. And, you brought up finding the line between what you want to do and what your audience wants. And my philosophy from anything I've done creatively, even pre-Bass Channel, is always heavily leaning into what I want to do. Because if people who spend too much time catering to what the audience wants, I mean, it's healthy to include that as well. You'll always have a through line of, integrity. And some people say it's selfish or it's arrogant or, whatever. But, if I do it for me, I know there's other people like me who will like what I like, and we'll kind of evolve it together. A lot of the artists that I enjoy followed that same, the 2 that come to mind are Rush and Metallica. If you watch their career trajectory, it's always been this is what we want to do. We're not going to sell out and put the album out that people want. So while I greatly enjoy their music, I've actually taken their career trajectory for my own. And how can I model that for what I'm doing?
That's a great template. And I completely understand what you mean, in a sense that when I started making videos as well, in a sense of the bass rig stuff, there was no one doing bass rigs. It's I want to see that. I'm going to make it. So I completely get it. And I'm glad to hear you think the same way, in a sense that no one is doing this. I'll do it. I love that.
Yeah.
That's spot on. I love it. Tell me how the Bass Channel came about. So how did it all begin?
It began the first video was May 12th of 2016, but the inception was 4 years prior. As you mentioned, and people will probably know who know the Bass Channel will know Will. Will is my cousin. Our moms are sisters. And he is about 7 or so years younger than I am. And so he and I were writing I was doing most of the writing, but we were just, for fun, we'd just record songs. I'd write songs, some of them better than others. And we'd record them. We eventually got around to playing live, and he progressed in the bass at 15 years old at an astronomical rate. It was incredible to watch. He went from, like everyone, kind of shaky eighth notes with a pick, and what felt like only a few months later, he's playing Geddy Lee lines. And I'm like, how did you progress this fast? And that got me excited about bass because I was playing guitar, I was singing. Drums are my first language, and bass is my newest instrument. And so that's kind of what started. We were looking for gear. And again, as wonderful as naivete is, how do we get more of that Geddy-like sound? We just didn't know how to do it. Like, we didn't really know that much about bass gear. So we'd go on YouTube. And the one that started it was the Orange Terror bass.
Okay.
Geddy used the AD200 in conjunction with his Tech 21 stuff. And we thought, okay, well, maybe that would do it. And the only video that we could really find was just this dude just kind of like thumping away, very R&B, right? And great player and good video, but like it didn't do anything for us. That's not how he plays. And so that was one day we should do this, So you fast forward a couple years, we're at our local music store looking for a fuzz. And again, naivete being wonderful, thinking that, well, the fuzz has to say bass on it. So let's try all the pedals that say bass fuzz. And we're trying the EHX and a couple other ones. And they're great, but they just weren't doing what the sound in our head. And so on a fluke, I picked up the Swollen Pickle. Never seen it, never heard it before, plugged it in. That's it. Hey, remember 4 years ago when we thought we should do videos? How many other people are like us who don't quite realize that you can plug a bass into a pedal that doesn't say bass on it? Thankfully, I didn't give myself analysis paralysis of how do we want, let's just jump in and let's just see what happens. And I'll figure out the pacing and the editing. So we shot the video May 11th, 2016, and it released May 12th of 2016. And it kind of took off from there. We shot it in his bedroom, went to our local music store, like, hey, this is what we're doing. We'd love to work with you and have access to the rack of gear that you have. And they said, yeah, that sounds good. Just make sure that you mention that you're at our store. So we get the little plug, and then you guys can use our gear, use our facility as long as it's in business hours. And so those first early videos from like the first year or maybe 8 months were all shot in our local music store's acoustic room.
That's what kind of surprised me. I had the impression you guys worked there or you knew someone, but to just go in and say, can we use your stuff? And they said, yes, that you must have been so happy with that.
Yeah. And we did know one of the guys there, not super well, but well enough. First name basis. His name was Nick. You probably recognize him. He kind of started seeing what we were doing and getting more into it. And naturally we became friends by just going in every week. That when we switched locations, Nick said, hey, I want to do some videos with you. And his first video was the Gibson SG versus the Epiphone EB3.
Yeah.
And then we did the P-Bass shootout, Nick and Will. We did the Jazz Bass shootout, Nick and Will. And then Nick kind of became a regular part of the channel as well. And we met him through instrumental music in Ventura.
That's lovely how it all came together.
Yeah.
It's sort of common interest and everyone bands together like a group. And I love it. You said like drums was your first instrument in that sense. So do you wish you could do something like that for drums, or are you just focused on the bass now? Why are you drawn to bass? Can I ask?
Well, okay. So Will's insanely fast progression into the instrument is what sparked me to finally watch someone play Geddy Lee lines, and lines that were similar, at least played in that style, was really fun to watch. Cause when I was a teenager growing up, bass was the instrument that like, damn it, I missed the guitar part. So I guess I'll play bass. And like, nobody played it. Like, it's the exact bass player that Glenn Fricker always talks about, is the people that I grew up with. So bass was just never a fun instrument until Will came in. And that was kind of, seeing the lack. It's a good thing I didn't do too much research, because again, the analysis paralysis. If I would have found out that Patrick Hunter existed, I probably would never have started. I didn't find out about Patrick until 6 or 7 months into our thing. And we were pretty deep in it at that point. And I thought, well, it's cool. We got two different personalities, and we ultimately became friends. Even though he's in Texas, we see each other every year at NAMM, and it's always a fun time hanging with Patrick.
Yeah, I bet. Again, another person in the community that's making excellent videos.
Yeah.
And like I said to you earlier, like, I just want to meet everyone in this community and teach me, just teach me your wisdom and so I can learn.
Yeah. Oh, to go back and answer your original question, which I accidentally dodged. I've considered doing it with other instruments. Obviously, there is an ocean of guitar demo videos. So it's like there's not really a demand there unless I can figure out a creative way to do it. I've never considered doing it with drums because, most of the time you take effects out of the equation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you take amplification out of the equation. So it's like, would you just demo like cymbals and drum heads and sticks? I feel like drums would benefit more from either lessons or like recording tips of use gaff tape on your toms to get them this sound, which could do. I don't have a drum kit at the moment, and I don't really have the space. This is a very temporary setup, which is a personal thing that we can get into later when we get to that section. So yeah, drums at the moment are just not a possibility.
You're making the videos, and at what point did you realize, hey, we're onto something here?
Probably a couple months into it, because we didn't know how to promote it. It wasn't really an entity yet. We just uploaded it with 0 subscribers, and it was just, and at that time when you have no subscribers, 50 views is huge. Yeah. Like, oh my God, 50 people watched this video we just shot. And it started growing. And then I remember like when we first hit 1,000 views, which was, I think it was our bass soul food video, which if there was ever a demo I could redo, it'd be that one.
Why? You need to tell me why.
We tried something different, which, our setup has always been, for the most part, into bass amp recorded with the Shure Beta 52. And the reason for that is we just used what we had at day one. This is the mic I own. This is the amp we own. Boom. And the bass soul food was the first time that we decided to try to record it direct. And if you record direct, particularly with distortion, and don't do any post, it sounds just ear fatiguing and nasty. Yeah. And so if I ever, which I'm recording direct now, but I have speaker simulation on it, so it still sounds pleasant. But yeah, that's the one that I wish I could make sound better.
That's really weird that you say it. And I was enthusiastically asking because I always wanted soul food pedal.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Of course, I watched your demo and a different one. And I enjoyed the pedal, and it was enough to go and get me to try it. I didn't buy it because the Nano Battalion had the blend knob and it had a bit more tweakability on the EQ. Mm-hmm. But I still love that tone, but I just wish it had a bit more tweakability to it.
The pedal that I have been probably the most surprised by, and it was early on, and I'm still impressed by it, is the Green Rhino.
Really?
From Way Huge. On bass, that 100 hertz control, you crank that up, and just the gain structure on it sounds so good. I didn't think it was going to sound that impressive, because like you plug it into plug bass into a tube screamer, it's okay.
Yeah.
But that Green Rhino just to this day just sounds killer to my ears.
I always have this image of like Tim Commerford using all of their really gnarly distortions and overdrives and stuff. So is it an overdrive pedal then, the Green Rhino?
Yeah, the Green Rhino was invented to be their version of a tube screamer, and it's again made for guitar players. But having the 100 hertz for guitar players, when you bend up on a high E, it just gives the beef back to those really trebly strings. But it accidentally just worked awesome for. I like it better than the Pork Loin, which is the one that they push as like also works for bass. No. Don't waste your time with the Pork Loin. Get the Green Rhino.
It's such a hard thing. I feel like I'm on my own quest of trying to find the right overdrives and distortions. And I'm sure you know what I mean, where, yeah, it will work on bass, but it's not intended for bass. And there's a big difference between that gap,
Yeah. And the one thing that, again, we started, our first video was a guitar pedal. And so that's kind of one of our hallmarks that we come back to, and trying to show people like, hey, using something like the LS2 or the EHX tri-parallel mixer, which is what I'm using now, taking something like a Boss DS1 and blending your clean sound, and then taking it a step further and EQing the high end out of your clean sound sounds incredible. Like that DS1, the way that it breaks up the top end is so awesome that if you can inject your low end back, you got a killer rig.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think a lot of the younger bass players don't realize that, yeah, of course you can have distortion and overdrive, but you need to add that bottom end back in, because you're missing out, and it's such a big deal. And only recently, like one of the pedals that I got for the Nano Battalion with that blend knob, it's just changed my tone completely.
Oh yeah.
But I'm still looking for more pedals, as you do. Like one isn't enough, and you have to keep going and keep going.
Just one more.
What if I add that after it? And that, yeah, can't change it. Talk to me about how EMG came into the picture for you.
I have been in, again, as a big, the perfect storm of a huge Metallica fan and a gear nerd. Naturally, EMG's been on the radar since I was 13 years old. I owned a few of their pickups on guitar, the 81, the headset, one other one I forget. The first thing we did with EMG, which wasn't with them, I bought the Geezer Butler PJ set. Bought it. Put it in the bass. They're still in the bass. They're awesome. Tried to get them to have, hey, check this out. They didn't give me the time of day. Fast forward a couple years, I have this idea which was sparked from people on forums almost blindly talking trash about active pickups all the time. They're cold, they're lifeless. It's like, okay, well, clearly there's an incredible roster on EMG's website. So there's something here. They're not trash. And so I did research onto what, differentiates an active pickup from your traditional passive pickup. In theory, on paper, as a concept, they've taken the problems that are inherent with the old school magnetic pickups and they've improved upon them. And I bring all of those points out in the video. And so what I did is I reached out to EMG because that was the company that I wanted to use. So I reached out, I said, hey, I have this idea for a video. Would you guys be interested in helping me out by supplying the pickups? If they would have said no, I would have bought them. I had the ones, I'm like, I want the EMG Geezer P because it's passive, Alnico 5. And I want to compare it to this one right here, the original ceramic P. This is one half of it. And just, show off the tonal differences and give sound samples to prove the points that I'm making, which I won't bore you with all the details. It's in the video. But yeah, that video turned out to be about 40 minutes. And the backlash that I got from that video, I wasn't quite ready for. And I got the one that kind of stung the most was people assuming that I was shilling for EMG. So nobody said this explicitly, but what I gathered from all the comments that I heard, the conception was, oh, EMG reached out to me, said, hey, can we give you X amount of dollars to make a video disguised as a science video, but really just pushes EMG. And that is in no way how that went down.
No.
I've received zero money. I did get the pickups for free, which according to YouTube's thing, I technically have to say it's a paid video, but I'm not paying my light bill with a set of pickups. But it's a concept that I believed in. And throughout the video, I interviewed I think he's like the head tech at EMG, who's also a bass player. At no point did either of us say EMG was better than Seymour Duncan or Fishman or insert brand here. I mentioned stuff like, I'm using EMG because I like them and they're kind of the original in this field, but Seymour Duncan's making great stuff. I know people like the Fishman stuff. So it wasn't an EMG exclusive. It was about actives. And then the second one that Ed Friedland, the bass whisperer, got offended at the video. He started questioning my ethics and talking about how he doesn't like to stoop that low to make clickbaity titles or, whatever he said. And I'm like, it's not a clickbaity title. Like, no, if this was a college paper, yeah, it's just a statement. If this was a college essay, that's your thesis. In my opinion, active pickups are better than, I don't even think that's an opinion. The opinion is they sound better.
Yeah.
Which if you disagree with that, that's fine. The title wasn't throw out all your passive instruments. It wasn't anything like that. Active pickups have corrected issues that passives had. Absolutely. So therefore they're better. If you don't like the way they sound,
don't buy
it. Like there's an application for everything. Like if you're digging passive pickups, then keep using passive pickups. I dig passive pickups as well, but I believe that actives are superior.
Wow.
And so getting accused of the clickbait, and then you get the sea of people who misunderstood. It's subjective. It's about what sounds better to you. I said, I know, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I never said they. Yeah. So that video kind of blew up in my face, and it was a little bit tougher to swallow because I put so much effort into it, and I was so proud of it. And a few people got it. A few people were appreciative that somebody took the time to explain the merits of actives rather than just calling them cold and sterile. So, I'm thinking about doing a similar type of video about Tonewood, which I'm just waiting for that to open my face too.
I would totally watch it. And for me personally, my opinion, the jury is still out. And if you were to do a video on Tonewood in the same quality you did with the active versus passive pickups, I would totally be grateful. So you've got one fan here. I want to see that. You've used so much emotional language about the active versus passive video, but all of this aggravation, I don't get it, man. Like, you're asking a question that people like me, we want to know. And like I said earlier, you guys are, for me, the gold standard of review videos. And to actually do a clear review and say, you know, A versus B versus C, no guff, just like, here's the facts and here's the information. You decide for yourself.
And that was the goal, because it's very popular, particularly right now we're still kind of in that retro boom where everybody wants the 57 sound. Since everybody kind of hangs out on the passive side of the fence, like, let me swing the pendulum far the other direction so that these people over here can see this and maybe find somewhere in the middle of like, okay, these aren't as bad as I've been led to believe. Now I can make a better educated decision on what may or may not work for me. That was the main goal. And the other guy on our channel, Chuck, was the perfect viewer for that video, because he leaned far on passive, watched my video and goes, never considered that. Let me rethink my position. I'm like, that's exactly what the goal of the video was.
That's worth it. I mean, even if you swayed a few minds, like, it is worth it.
Yeah, just at least to consider.
Totally. I think my default preference is active. Not that I knock passive pickups automatically, but it was nice just to hear the comparison and say, I could totally use that passive one for this tone, or that active one for that tone. And at least, you know, everything we use is a tool. Pickups included, strings included, wood included. It's not just set and forget. You can change these things.
They're definitely tools. And I guess to go even further, the active pickup is the more versatile tool of the two. Maybe not always the perfect tool, but if you had to pick one, I'd go with the active.
Wholeheartedly agree. Like, I just keep saying on my videos, like, one of my Defender Aerodyne in the other corner, I love that bass, but the passive pickups just aren't enough for me. And my Lakeland, I love it. It's got the preamp and the active EQ, active pickups. I wouldn't have it any other way. I had to have active basses because it just suits the way that I play.
Yeah.
And I had the same issue in a similar video of mine. Okay, not knocking. I criticized them, which is, that's where you go wrong. You criticize. But yeah, I totally feel you, man. It's the same thing. If you say something that isn't part of the general consensus, you're going to hear about it.
So, so the funny thing is, not only was that video not shilling, it was just a random guy, you know, saying, hey, could you help me? So they liked that video a lot because it was, you know, what I thought, well done. That I said, well, the next thing I want to do is a Thunderbird pickup shoot. And I sent them my Seymour Duncan P-Bass one just to be like, you know, like this, but with EMG Thunderbird. And so they don't sell those pickups in sets. You can get them individually, just one or two, and make your own set. So they sent me two of each. And I went through, again, that we'll get into later, some things in my personal life that have delayed that project. But they said, yeah, that sounds great. Can't wait to see it. And then reached out to me only a couple weeks ago. Hey, would you like to be an official artist?
Wow.
Which means for me, they sent me some swag, you know, t-shirt, lanyard, things of that nature. I asked for a banner that when I get my new studio, I can put up in the back. But yeah, which means for me that every year I get either two pickups or one set, like a, you know, jazz set, free of charge. And then I get the artist discount the rest of the year, which is 50% off. And I'm like, that's cool, because I'm just gonna buy them anyway. So like, thanks for the hookup, you know, because it's a company that I have loved for over a decade and I believe in, and you know, it's not anybody convincing me otherwise of like, hey, we know you love insert brand here, but we want you to come and play on our team. I've been on their team since 2004, you know, like, so it just worked out
the
perfectly.
perfect candidate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant to go back to the shilling thing. Like, again, these are such emotive words, and I think it's unfair for any creator like you or me. You're trying to show your audience something, and there are some people, not your core audience, but some people go, they were paid to do that. Your opinion's not worth it because you have a brand. It's like, I'm not shilling. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to just show you something. And
yeah, to be written on, to have 40 hours worth of editing I mean, it was way more planning too, but have that amount of work written off in one sentence that's not even true.
No.
Is just like, it's a little crushing. I know you have to have thick skin to be in this game, but that was just the one where I kind of, my shell kind of opened up and got penetrated, but we'll bounce back.
No, I'm sorry you felt that way. I mean, it didn't even occur to me in any sense. It's like, I saw it for what it was, and the merit of, like you said, of saying, we want to show you something and maybe it'll broaden your horizons. So, you have one fan over here.
Oh, cool, man. Thank you.
You've got a lot of stuff in the works coming up this October. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yes. So I had this idea last year, but pandemic kind of delayed it. So the idea is every day in October, we are releasing one wah pedal demo. And, I've kind of still been figuring out how it's going to work, but they're originally going to be maybe a little shorter since they're every day, but they're turning out to be 8 to 10 minutes like everything else is. So I'm still like about halfway through shooting it. And I think I kind of bit off more than I can chew because I've been stressed out the last couple of weeks of like getting all this together. But so I got 31 wah pedals.
Chris, now, can I ask you, how many wah pedals are there? Because I can't even name 5, let alone 31. How the hell did you find 31?
So I have a deal with Zounds. They're an online music retailer. I don't know if they're worldwide, but I think they might be. To where they will either send me stuff on loan or they'll give me a decent discount on it. And then sometimes we can work out a deal to where I get to hang on to the gear. But either way, I go through them first, like, hey, I want to do this. Is that available? And they either say yes or no. Like that's how I got the Ampeg videos, or the Ampeg for the videos. Those were on loan. They shipped to my house, shot them, sent them back. So they had 28 wah pedals and I had to buy the remaining 3 or 4, however many I bought. Dunlop has like 20 crybabies.
Sure, yeah.
Morley has somewhere close to a dozen wah pedals. We have the EBS Wah 1. We have this Custom Audio Electronics, which is still Dunlop, but it's not a crybaby. We have, let me see what else is over there. The EHX Cockfight. We got 2 of the Vox Wahs, and then you can get into, you can really blur the lines because a wah is just a filter. Yeah. So at what point do we close the door on envelope filters, right? I'm like, okay, well, outside of the traditional treadle, it has to say wah, because if it says filter, then why didn't you include the MXR envelope filter? Because it doesn't say wah. So we have the Eden California wah, the Boss AW3 dynamic wah, and the Crybaby Q Zone wah lock or cocked wah, however they called it. Wah is in the title. So I'm like, okay, cool. It fits. So yeah, 31 altogether. There's the Slash signature, the Kirk Hammett signature, the Gary Clark signature, the Crybaby bass, 95Q, original Crybaby Mini, Crybaby Junior, Tom Morello's signature. Like there's a lot. And
that's a good recall. Well done.
Yeah, about half of them. But the thing that I've enjoyed is, like I said, I got into this for the gear and it was always really fun for me. I was making the video I wanted to watch. But then you get to the point where it all starts to be the same. It's a fuzz, it's a distortion, it's a chorus. Let me guess. I know exactly how it sounds. Yep. And you start to get a little jaded to it. And you're just trying to do it just to get the video out. So Saturday has a video to release. And this project, as much work as it is, has kind of reignited my love for gear because, like you said, didn't even realize there were 31. We only have like a fraction of all of them that are available. But just to spot the subtle differences, oh, this one's got more low end. Oh, this one has a more narrow sweep. This one's got a narrower Q. Whatever it might be has kind of reignited, like, this is really fun again. As much work as it is, I'm really enjoying myself. And I am getting back to the place where I am just so excited for it to be done so I can watch them.
Brilliant. I'm so excited for you. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. Well, when I think of wah, I don't think of bass. So it's all on bass, is it?
Yeah. And I think of all the wahs we have, I think 3 of them are specifically made for bass.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are not. And so, there are some samples where it's like, here's what it sounds like with the clean blend and here's without the clean blend. So like, just because it doesn't say bass on it, maybe it has a really good, like the Kirk Hammett wah, putting aside the fact that I'm a huge Metallica nut, it's got a much more pleasant sweep, in my opinion, than the original GCB 95 Crybaby. I like the travel of it. I like the frequency response, the Q. Sure, it cuts low end, but if you can bring your low end back with the sweep the KH95 has, that to me is a killer wah tone, way better than the original.
Again, like you, I'm a gear nerd. I like to see these differences. I want to know what the differences are. I don't know why. I'm sure you're the same, but I just want to know. And I have the original Crybaby. I found it when I was working in a live venue. It's like, I guess I'll take this home. And I only used it a couple of times, but I like it with distortion and to leave it half cocked. Like, yeah, this works. So again, like another tool in the toolbox. Where can this wah sound fit into my rig? So yeah. I'm excited for you. It's brilliant.
Now, are you in the distortion before wah or the distortion after wah?
It's been a while since I tried it, but if I remember rightly, it was, I think afterwards. I tried it both and I could never get it right. I could never get it where I wanted it, but I remember I always liked it afterwards, if I remember rightly.
Because I like this, like particularly with fuzzes or distortions that are mega distortion. It's always really cool to put it before the wah, so you're filtering the distortion sound, and it's just this crazy larger than life. Which the Morley Power Fuzz Wah is that the fuzz comes before. Same thing with the Cockfight. You can actually switch. Oh, cool. And just having the filter last is just an incredible sound.
Can you give me some spoilers? Like, is there a favorite one that you found so far? Like, is there one that you got attached to?
Yeah, I look. So I'm gonna keep a couple. I'm going to give a couple to the people in the channel. Like Chuck I'm going to give him the Tom Morello. Dave, who's going to be the host for all these videos, I'm going to give him 2 of them. But like I'm keeping the Crybaby bass because it's just good to have around. Kirk Hammett because of course. I really like the Dimebag signature wah. It's got all the versatility of the 535Q and more. And it's like that's a good wah to just keep around because I like to record music too. So if I ever need to reach for a wah sound, that's a good one. The Morley distortion wah, the green one, is a fantastic unit. Like the distortion on it doesn't really cut low end. It does once you engage the wah, it obviously does. But to leave the wah off and just use the drive sounds incredible. The biggest disappointment of it has been the Tom Morello signature because I'm not a big Slash fan, but his wah is cool. The Kirk Hammett wah is cool. The Gary Clark Jr. wah is cool. The John Petrucci wah is really cool, but they're all different. The Tom Morello is the GCB 95 with a different paint job. And that's not just me listening to it. It's in the copy that we read from the websites. Like Tom wanted to keep the same sound he loved from the original GCB, but put a new paint job on. I'm like, really? Like,
so nothing's changed. It's just his name.
No, it's just like, yeah, it's a red pedal with a red star on the grip. And there's like quotes. And I love how they went to the trouble to say quotes chosen by Tom himself. Like, ooh, you know, like choose it. So yeah, that was probably the biggest. I mean, I will say it looks cool. Like it shoots well. Like when you see it on the screen, it's a aesthetically pleasing wah. But you can save yourself, $30-$40 and just get the GCB.
That's something I'm finding now with pedals where it's difficult to find that line between, is this a new innovation or is this something that already exists, but just in a nicer package?
Yeah. And I mean, I get like with the signature wahs, like a lot of these artists are using the Crybaby rack. So you have tons of tweakability and they've tweaked it to be like, this is my sweep. Okay, we're going to take those settings and just put it into a standard. That's cool. That's awesome. Because they all do sound different. A lot of those signature ones do. But yeah, that one just felt like a kind of a cop out. And I found it kind of hilarious of like how capitalistic it is in spirit with a band like Rage Against the Machine. Like for them to go for the cash grab was just a little ironic to me.
Didn't they come up in the news recently with the same? I can't remember what it was. They were in the news recently for doing something too capitalistic.
Tim just came out with the signature Stingray, which we got to look at, which
that's what it was. Yeah.
Was cool. But it was a Stingray. Like it didn't have a special pickup. It just had the finger ramp, which is a cool, but there's no reason you can't just put that on a regular Stingray. So it's like, there's nothing about this. Well, okay. That's not entirely fair. They do make 4 versions of it. So you can now get like the passive or active in either short or long scale. So like having those options was really cool, but just inherently it wasn't anything particularly special,
So you weren't impressed with that bass?
I mean, I was and I wasn't. Like I was impressed with it on a Stingray level, because I like Stingrays, they sound good. My favorite Stingray has been the old Smoothie, and it probably always will be. But from like a whole like hype standpoint of like the new Tim Commerford signature, it's like, dude, he just uses a Stingray. Like,
yeah,
I know there's legends that he made his own pickup, so why aren't we putting a special pickup in it? Like, from what I can read, it's just the same pickup. Like, it's, it's passive, so you got the 3 series parallel signature or single. Other than for the finger ramp and the back plate, it's a Stingray. So that's where it's disappointing for me. Like, give me something that I can't get on the original that's not just a piece of extra plastic.
Yeah, I don't like that, where it's lip service to say it's personalized. I could have done that myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool innovation, but I could have done it. So I mean, I liked it, and I was disappointed at the same time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sounds good. It's a Stingray. It's going to sound
Stingray.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's just a slightly overpriced Stingray.
I didn't look at the price properly because they don't show it. That's why they don't show you the price.
I didn't know the price going into the video. The comment section let me know it's about $3,000.
So it's more than an original Stingray.
Oh yeah, which I think the original Stingrays kind of sit, depending on which one you get. I think they sit somewhere between 19 and 22. Some 1900, 2200. This one's up to 3,000.
That's not right. I don't like that.
Yeah.
What drew you to the Wah? Why Wah specifically?
A couple reasons, because we haven't done a tremendous amount of Wah content. Like, if you look over the last 5.5 years, I think there's maybe like 4, and it just fit in with the, I guess it's a pun, right? Wahctober.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
So it's like, that was kind of the idea, just me seeing like, there's a bunch of these that the uninitiated would just, it's a wah pedal, I'll just buy any of them. Well, no, if you really get into it, much like the Tube Screamer clones, there's a million of those. You can just get into the nitty gritty and really find the one that's going to work for you. How helpful would it be to have everybody show them off in a very similar type of format, so you can watch them back to back and say, I like that sweep better than that sweep. Like, for example, we touched on this, I think, in the Vox 847A classic video. At the time that they were initially released, the Vox and the Crybaby were identical. It was the same pedal, same everything, with a different name, just so they could distribute it in 2 different markets. Today, they're not the same, and it's hard to say whose is closer to the original, but I do know that I prefer the sound of the Vox to the GCB 95. It's a subtle difference, but the Vox is a little bit lower tuned, a little bit wider Q, so it's not quite as clicky.
Yeah.
And it's just again, if you're not listening that intently, you might not notice it, but I have to listen intently. So between the two, the Vox edges out the GCB. But that being said, I don't prefer Vox as a whole over Crybaby, because I do like the Kirk Hammett wah. I do like the 535Q when you can roll it back into the lower voice, or the Crybaby Mini or Crybaby Junior have the 3-way switch of high, which is the original, medium, and low. The medium and low settings, it's like, that should be the original voice. Those sound so good.
Like I said, I'm totally looking forward to it. I'm sure it's going to blow my mind and open so many doors for me. How many are there with there's one that comes to mind, but I can't remember what model it is. It has the frequency selector.
535Q was the original. It's got the 6-way frequency selector. It's got a boost on it. I think it's like 20 dB boost, and then a Q control, which determines how broad or narrow your Q is. And then you get the dime bag signature, which takes all of that and adds a fine tune control. So instead of like, these numbers are totally arbitrary, so don't quote me on it, but like on one range selector, your wah is from 400 to 1200 hertz. Well, on the dime bag, you can take the 1200 and say, well, I don't want 12. I want to dial it back down to an even 1000, which is called the fine tune control. So it just builds upon that, and it doesn't leave anything behind. So it's like, between the two, I'm keeping the dime bag wah.
That's
like
killer.
No question.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about Wahctober?
Yeah. So I'm doing it. I'm kind of doing all the videos together. Like I'm editing them all at once, and I'm doing it in 5 phases. So if, like you said, you've been watching our channel through most of last year's lockdown, as you've noticed, we have a plethora of players, and the way I'm doing that, I do have, is with, this is my little mobile record board, but this pedal right here, the wiretap. I've been recording different players on both my team and people that I've just met over the last few years, and using that to reamp the demo. So there's a section of every wah video that has I think it's 7 riffs that are the same riff every video.
Yeah.
So that gives you if you're really interested in the back-to-back, like the only variable at that point would be the wah. So I did all of that. Actually, that's not true. I did all of Dave's talking head bits first. We got through all 31 videos. The outtake reel I'm probably going to release that November 1st because it's hilarious. So we did that first. Then I shot all my wiretap riffs where I reamp it and it's my foot going waka waka. And then phase 3 is me, because we wanted to incorporate what we used to do with Will when he would sit behind the pedal and just play it and I would turn knobs. How cool would it be to do a hybrid approach? So now I'm having Dave film me play, and it's been a test for like, I spend more time here editing than I do here. And so having to be like, okay, I need to be able to play something coherent for 4 minutes and wah at the same time. And so it is very expressive, and it's live and it's real time. And so we're about halfway through that phase. I think we have 11 left to do.
Wow.
And then the final phase, which I've been doing interspersed, is to edit it all together. Oh, and then I have to get the beauty shots, the B-roll, so when he's talking about the range selector, it's a really cool pan of the range select. I still have to do all that. So that I'll probably do that in one day. There's a podcast I listen to called Metal Up Your Podcast. I'm purposely not listening to it so I can blast through 4 episodes while I shoot all that stuff.
You touched on a lot of points that I kind of want to go through. I think the first one would have been the wiretap. Like when I think you've done a video, again, it's not recent to me, but I remember you showed it and said, this is what we use to record. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I haven't got one yet. And I'm still like, I've drawn the whole fucking thing out. Like, okay, I'll record on my computer. I'll get a lead back out to my amplifier. And I'm trying to make it simple. It's like, I should just get a wiretap and do that. Because like, it just seems the easiest thing. And I love that, like you said, that you have all of the riffs already recorded. And another thing, when you do your demos, you use either a P bass or a J bass most of the time. And as a player, I appreciate, right, I know what a P bass sounds like. I know what a jazz bass sounds like. And there are some channels that have a bass nobody even listens to, like the Yamaha SR whatever's. And like, I don't know what they sound like. Like, yeah, I don't have a good reference point. So thank you for the P's and the J's and the wiretaps. It helps someone like me just have that consistency. I love that so much. And, I take notes when, okay, I got to do that. A wiretap. Okay, cool.
Well, okay. So you don't necessarily need the wiretap specifically. The reason that I chose it, the main 2 advantages for me is there is no input gain. Because like if you're recording direct into your DAW, you can change the input gain and make your P bass hotter than it really would be.
Yeah.
But we're very much on, we want this to sound as it's going to sound, not enhance it. So no input gain. What you put in is exactly what you get out. And it has the ability to be mobile. So this little board that I have here, this is set up to where we can record in the middle of a field if we wanted to. There's normally a Warwick Power XL, which I'm using for the wahs right now. But I can just turn that on. It powers this whole board. So we got recording, which is first in line, and then tuner. And then this is just for headphones, so you can hear yourself playing it if you are in a field or at NAMM or something. So that's just how it works for me. But when we started and I only had about 15 archived riffs, I'd just play it from the pedal. And then we got to the point where I think now we have almost 2,000 recordings. Not all of them are usable, but yeah, they're not all usable. One of our Patreon members, his name's Kai Peter. He has sent me, I think, 14. And then another Patreon, Chris Chilton, has sent me, I think, 4. And that's about it. But at some point, the pedal can't hold anymore. Mm-hmm. So I import that wave into into my computer, and then I run. Let me grab it. It's always nice to have visual aids. And then I run this guy, this active reamper. Mm-hmm. It's active, of course. Mm-hmm. And I've figured out there is a level control. I've figured out where, like, if I play it through the pedal and my bass and this, I've matched it out to where this sounds as it would. So that's the way I can choose from, I think it's 1,800 riffs. And again, not all of them are usable. We just have 1,800 recordings. Mm-hmm. Some of them are mistakes. Some of them were like, when we did the pick demo of all the different Tortex sizes, We have all those recorded. All the riffs for basses where we're showing the active knobs, like play a riff, turn the bass up, turn the bass down. You're not really going to use that in a pedal demo, but we have it, like just in case. So yeah, that's it's cool because you can go to NAMM and record basses that you wouldn't normally have in your studio. So it's like one of the biggest advantages is capturing players and instruments. So we can just borrow a bass for a week and technically own it, instead of me having to buy every single one of these so we can use it later. No, just give it to me for a week. I'll have a couple people record with it, and then we can now show it 10 years down the road with another amp. It's like, oh, here's what it sounds like. So I got to do a Rickenbacker because I'm not going to buy one, but if I can just get one for this, that'll be, I think most people they finally did it with a Rick.
I love that. I just feel like that is your secret weapon.
Yes.
And like I said, like as a content creator and as a musician and a bass player, like I notice you keep everything consistent, and I noticed that, and I just think that is your superpower, and I love that so much. And more power to you. Keep doing it. I love it.
Thanks, man.
On a personal note, I watched your channel, and you always have the Darkglass amplifiers or the pedals. I seem to be asking everyone I talk to, what is your personal opinion on Darkglass?
I love it. My favorite Darkglass unit is the X Ultra. I recorded an album over most of 2020, which was released in January of 2021, called Lunar Satan. The X Ultra is on every single track, all 10 tracks. It's that pedal. Once I figured out how to dial it in, I was in. That's my sound. The Alpha Omega I like, but I like it more when other people play it. It doesn't work with how I play. And then the B7K and the Vintage are virtually the same thing, with the Vintage just having more mids. Love them both. Vintage usually works better in a mix. Now, where we get more honest is the new Atom, or aggressively distorting advanced. Not a fan.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
I did not like it.
No.
I loved it before I heard it. I read about what it had. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. It's great theoretically. And I'm sure it's great tonally for some people. It's just not great tonally for me. Like when I play or when I want to hear a distorted tone, it's not that. And so it's sitting right here, but it's not going to be sitting there for very much longer. And then as far as the amps go, again, on paper, the V2 amps, there's features on them that are really cool, but the V1, I think, sounds a little better. And I've noticed that the smaller Darkglasses sound better than the bigger ones. So like you have your ultra pedals that sound one way, the next one down that's more square sounds better, and then the more rectangular MXR sized sounds the best. Like they're the most punchy in their drive. It's weird. Yeah. So like at what point do you sacrifice flexibility for tone? Most of the time have sacrificed, I need the more of the flexibility because I'm not really gigging right now. So it's like I need it to do more things than just have one good sound.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I only asked the question. I mean, I've only played Darkglass here and there in small amounts. Again, it's all subjective. I find the stuff that I tried way too toppy and more really heavy distortions. And then we're talking about sacrificing the low end. And again, it's just what I dislike. It's not the overdrive I'm looking for, so it just might be the wrong pedal. So I'm always curious to what people think about Darkglass.
I would say before you write it off completely, try the smallest Vintage microtubes.
I hear
just
that.
Give that a go.
The Vintage ones.
Yeah, the Vintage. I mean, the B3K too, it's a different flavor, but still it's very, very similar circuit. But the small ones, try the small Vintage, which to your point though, okay, so segueing from the active pickup video, it looks like I guess I'm a fan of stirring the pot and saying unpopular opinions. About a year ago, I put together the video showing all 4 of the Darkglass Ultra pedals in non-metal context.
I recall it, yeah.
And a lot of the tones, it's a very high blend and a very low drive, so you're getting more of the preamp, the tubes part of the microtubes, if you will. And that was really fun. I'm planning. It's still in production to do a very similar style video, but with Dingwall.
Cool.
So it's going to be called More Than Just Metal, a Dingwall defense, and it'll kind of be the unofficial part 2. And we have some cool stuff lined up. Like I have Jamie Lewis playing some stuff on the D-Rock and the NG2 5-string. My friend Will Shively, who plays in Boys to Men, he plays a Combustion 5 and 6 string. So I got him in there doing a little interview on why he uses it for Boys to Men of all artists. Someone else coming in here pretty soon who plays for Cher, who also plays Dingwall, and we're going to interview her and then put this whole thing together, and it's going to be really fun when it's done.
I came across Dingwalls. I find them fascinating. I'm really curious about them. I don't know what it is. It's just this, I don't know whether it's the new shape or the amount of, not customization, but the options available. Whatever you want, they do it. Like whatever pickup arrangement, they got it. And I'm never fully satisfied with my low B on a 5 string. And I just wonder whether that the threaded frets will help me with that. So I'm always curious to see what they offer.
It depends. I mean, yeah, I think that it will, depending on what part you're unhappy with. Like, I'm guessing it's either the tension and or the fact that it's not very bright.
More the tension, and then brightness is the secondary one. But for me, it's more tension that I want to hear the note articulation more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that the B is just it's just not having the same effect as the rest of the notes. So you put a compressor on it, you go, it's better, but it's not the best.
Yeah, the Dingwall definitely helps. It gives you plenty of overtones. It gives you consistent tension where they all kind of have the same attack level and harmonic content across, B to G. I have a 4 string and I like to do a lot of stuff in drop C. And I'm noticing that on the 4 string, the drop C sounds incredible because you're now at 36.25 inch. But anyway, I've noticed that going drop C on a 105 string sounds killer.
That's amazing. Like for me, when I tune 4 strings down to C sharp or C, I hate it. I want to die. I just can't. I can't live with it. Like I can't play a bass in drop C or C sharp. I just. Anyway, I don't want to keep going on about that. That's why I bought a 5 string, because then I realized I can tune up. Now I have tension, and now I can play and have articulation. So actually, a normal 5 string tuned up to C sharp, I love that because the tension's there. But to hear that you can play drop C or C sharp on a 4 string, that blows my mind.
Now I will say I am a fan of low tension. My Thunderbird is tuned standard. I'll occasionally do half step down, but that's tuned 40 to 95. And 40 to 95 in standard for me is really comfortable, to where 45 to 105 and a drop C is also comfortable. Like, because I play with a pick a lot. I'm getting better here, and I'm kind of surprising myself when doing these walls. Like, wow, I'm actually doing this. But I enjoy the low tension. It just kind of makes it effortless, and I just get to. Because again, bass is still my newest instrument that I want to worry less about, okay, this is a little scary and new, and just I'm playing it. It sounds good. It feels good. It's fun. I mean, I say bass is my newest instrument. I've been playing for like 5 years now, but again, the majority of my bass career has been spent editing bass videos and very little playing. So it's like, if I would have had as much time in the videos as I do, to put on the bass, probably I would have come this far in like 1 year instead of 5,
You've fallen into this position of, my world is bass now. You've thrown yourself into the deep end, and now bass is your world. And I admire you for like, I guess this is me now.
Yeah. And the part that I don't know if anybody knows, and now that I'm thinking about it, this could be incorrect, but if I'm missing one, I don't think I've played a live gig on bass.
Really?
And a lot of that has to do with when Bass Channel started, I was still predominantly playing lead guitar. And the bands that I was playing in, I'd play lead guitar, maybe drums, and Will was always playing bass. Then, tunnel visioned into the channel. There's not really a lot of time for me to go out and gig. And then 2020 happened, and I really no time for gigs. So it's like, it's always hard. I always get really self-conscious to like talk about stuff, because I know it in a record. I recorded an entire album last year, and we're working on volume 2. And like, I've played in my room, and I know how stuff sounds, but like, I don't really know how it sounds in a live room. Like, I can't tell you like if this is going to work in your bar band gig or in your arena gig. Like, I don't know. I've never done it. So like, I always get a little like, people are going to find out that I'm a fake,
I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, do you still play drums? Is that a regular thing you participate in?
Yeah, I think for me, drums are kind of like riding a bike to where, I mean, I would maybe need to take a day or two to tighten up the screws, but there's just certain things you never forget. And I'm always playing on my knees and I'm always playing on desks and doing these really stupidly weird double kick things. And so when the day comes that I do get a drum kit again, I mean, it'll probably be maybe a week to just really kind of get the motions down to where I'm hitting everything at the same time instead of just a little off.
Yeah.
But other than for that, yeah, I mean, it's like riding a bike to me because I started playing when I was 10. Well, I started playing seriously when I was 10 and have just always been playing. So it's like, it's just one of those things I don't think I'll ever lose until I start losing it up here, you know?
Do you think that playing the drums has helped you be a better bass player?
Tremendously. A, because of just timing and understanding, you know, you got to be locked in and feel it. But one of the hardest things, because again, I went drums, then guitar, and now I'm kind of really like literally meeting in the middle and trying to like figure out, okay, how do I learn? Because I know all the notes and I can play, but now thinking about it differently of like, I get to bridge my two things and sync the guitar notes to the kick. And so there were a couple songs on this album that I did where it's like, that was my mission statement. Like, if the kick is not happening, I'm not happening. And it was really fun. Once I kind of, you know, because again, like anything, you just got to practice it. You got to work that muscle. Once I was able to work that muscle, it was really cool. And that's the track that I'm like the most proud of now. And you know, it's funny. And when I was playing drums a lot, I was a little unorthodox into where I never looked at it as I'm syncing with the bass player. I always looked at it as like, I'm just playing the song.
Yeah.
So if there was a vocal phrase that I would like, that's a catchy vocal phrase, I'm going to mimic it with my kick, or I'm going to mimic that guitar pattern with my snare or something. Like I would always play to the guitar and the vocals, like never the bass. Like we would never lock in on doom, da, doom, doom, da. Like hardly ever. It was always like, let me hear what the singer and guitar player is doing, and I'm just going to do that. And it's a very Lars Ulrich way of playing drums, because he doesn't play. Lars doesn't really play the drums. He plays the song. And so a lot of his syncopations matches up with James's syncopations. And then you hear the isolated Jason tracks from like Reload. Like there's no sync. I mean, I don't want to say no sync, but there's not as much syncopation as you would find in like Faith No More, you know?
I find that as well. My next video is Robert Trujillo, so I've been watching Metallica all day, every day. And I think Robert said, what's it like playing with Lars? And he said, oh, Lars follows James. Like Lars follows what James sings, and I have to follow the singing. So I totally get that. I know what you mean.
Oh, dude, like he is my favorite drummer.
Oh, really?
Like I technically speaking, nothing to brag about. But the amount of energy and passion and enthusiasm that he puts in, like when he hits a drum, I always want to say note, but you know, when he hits a beat, you know that he's hitting every single drum wholeheartedly.
Oh,
he's not just sitting there. He's not doing this. He is in it. And I've seen him live, I think 9 times, and I've been on the rail for many of them. He's just going, man. Like that's not just for the live DVDs. Like I saw him in Fresno, California in like 2018, and he's just, I'm like, I love this. So him for his just passion, and then Neil Peart because he's Neil. Yeah. Totally. I think those two are my biggest drum influences, and I kind of fuse them into my playing.
Now that I'm pushing myself into working more, you know, focusing and trying to get less YouTube. I don't know what it's like for you. So tell me a bit more about where you fit into the whole bass channel direction. Are you the boss? Are you the one making the things happen and calling the choices?
Yeah, as weird as it is to say, because I try not to do that too much. But yeah, I mean, it is all pretty much my creative direction. Obviously, there are times when people say, hey, we should try this. Okay, cool, let's go for it. And I'll kind of let them steer the ship for a minute. But for the most part, I'm doing all the pre-production. I'm doing all the planning. I'm writing all the scripts. If before I got the deal with Zounds, I'm buying all the pedals. Like it's a lot. I don't talk about this too much because it's hard to talk about without sounding like I'm throwing somebody under the bus. So no matter what I say following this, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. But some of the early crew kind of started to really lose enthusiasm. And that was half of the inspiration for doing the wiretap of like, at that point, I was really not confident in my playing, that I cannot do everything. I can shoot, I can edit, I can plan, I can write, I can whatever. But I wanted to have someone else be the face, because at the time it was just an exercise of like, let me do a project that's not about me. It doesn't have to be egotistical. And yeah, just interest started to lose off, and schedules started to not be honored and held to, and just things. So I've had to find, there was a period of time throughout most of 2020 that I was on camera, and I don't particularly enjoy it. I would maybe enjoy it more if I wasn't also worried about the production stuff. Like, is the lighting good? Is the camera? Because I use Blackmagic cinema cameras. There is no flip out LCD.
Oh, right.
So I just hope I'm in focus. I didn't have a spare monitor, so I was just kind of going for it. And now I got, and then I met Chuck, and then Dave moved out near me. So it's like, cool, I can go back to my role of just being producer and shooting them, letting them be the face. And right now, Chuck has been doing a tremendous job at getting in contact with different companies like Dirty Haggard Audio, Anaconda Bases, Tribe Bases, Nordstrand. Like, that dude just knows everybody for some reason. So he's been getting a lot of stuff, and it's as fun as it is overwhelming. I'm like, oh my God, now I have to put all this together. But yeah, I mean, I always want it to be more of a, let's make this greater than me. Let's make this greater than you. Let's make it greater than the two of us. How big can we make it? How much of a community effort can it be? And, I'm trying to kind of go into different avenues, like, Patreon, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, website. We have a dude up in Portland, Oregon named Doug Robertson, who writes all the blogs. He always hits me up like, hey, do you have any content? So I try to write them when I can, but my brain moves faster than my fingers. So I get them out slowly, but I try to. So it's really cool to have all these different people. And I really want to get it to a point, you see the goal for the most part in a very vague sense, but knowing the steps to get there is the big question of like, how do we do this to where most of us are spending most of our time doing this and getting to a point where there is income coming in. I mean, there's income coming in now, but it's so trivial that it just kind of mostly goes back into the channel, like I would love to one day get it to a place where like, okay, we're all putting 4 hours a day into it and everybody gets a little salary. Like, that would be really cool, but there's a big gap between where we are and where we want to be, and knowing the right steps to get there is always the challenge. But no matter what, we're still doing the right things. We're still growing. We're still putting out what I think is quality content, with a couple misses here and there. But for the most part, like, we're still doing the right thing. We're still moving towards that goal.
Your channel is different in the sense that I don't say you have a cast. I mean, you have like a crew of familiar faces. And was that intentional, or was it like you said, I want more people out there so that I don't need to go in front of the camera?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the plan from day one. The plan was, the Will and I just doing this for years. Maybe one day we'll buy a house together and we'll just shoot in our own studio. And he was the kind of the first to sort of lose the enthusiasm. And then when Nick came in, we met Nick. Nick had the enthusiasm up to here. Cool. Okay. Let's, so I had to kind of learn how to direct, because I got really good at directing Will. Like, if he would stumble on a word, knowing, okay, try it like this, or hey, that you could have said that better. Had to learn how to have my directing style with Nick to get the best takes out of him. And then we got on a good pace through most of 2019. And then I moved to Vegas, but I kept going to California often so we could still shoot, but enthusiasm seemed to drop off again. And then I met Josh in 2017, and he expressed interest in doing something. And then that morphed into him doing all the bass covers, which has been the most successful videos that we've done ever.
I was taking a look at that and I thought, oh, what are your most popular videos? And his covers are amazing, but I'm sure you'll agree to a point that you want to be known for your original content and not to rehash covers.
Because it's, when you look at the analytics, it's very tempting to say, well, let's just save ourselves all the effort of making these demos and just do covers. But you eliminate, the little monetization we have is now gone to zero. And yeah, like you said, like, there's less creative fulfillment in building your reputation off of playing someone else's artistic work. So while I am very appreciative of those covers, and I love making them and I love watching them, and Josh is like just one of the coolest dudes in the world to hang out with, I still want that to be a portion of what we do.
Yes.
Like I'm not ready to abandon ship on everything else in favor of doing only this. But I see this growing in conjunction with this growing. So I want it all to grow together and just have different, sections, and even toying with the idea of like, rather than me kind of running the show with everything, because I directed. Josh most of the time picks the songs, but I'm kind of directing it and recording with him. Like, what if I could set it up to where Josh could just do it on his own? What if I could set it up to where Chuck does his show? Like, Chuck, what would you do if you were starting a YouTube channel today? What kind of content would you make? Do that and just upload it to Base Channel. Or with Dave, what kind of content would you like? I'm toying with that idea too, of giving everybody their own show and their own creative voice, which is good for them as good as it is for me, because it takes a little bit of the workload off me, lets me focus on the stuff that I want to do. Like, active pickups are better than passive pickups. But I think that would be the most beneficial thing. The problem is just getting the gear and teaching all of those guys how to use the gear and how to edit their own videos. That'll be the biggest hurdle. And then thankfully everyone is cool, but I know there's going to be a point of like, hey man, when are we going to start making money?
Yeah.
I don't know. I will say the thing about the covers that gets me the most excited is obviously you've seen them and millions of other people have seen him. Josh is a tremendous player. And before we started shooting covers, he's played in bands around, our local small hometown, and they'll play 3-hour bar gigs to kind of an ever rotating cast of people drinking or coming out of a movie or something. Again, no disrespect to the band, because the band that he's in they're a killer band too. But to like 100 or less people, it's like, dude, this talent is so wasted. Like more people need to see how this guy plays. And it's really cool that we've found an avenue to get him the audience that he deserves, and just to see the comments going in of like, this guy's amazing. It's like, yeah, cool. Finally, more people than just the residents of Ventura, California in this bar are now aware of it, and plus it gives him an opportunity to play songs that he wants to play that his band is not open to doing. Yeah. Because they do a lot of Alice in Chains, Audio Slave, that avenue. Mm-hmm. And Josh is really into Iron Maiden and more heavy metal, Death and Metallica and Slayer, and so it gives him the freedom to do that, so he gets to just play those songs. And it's beneficial for everybody. But I'm still psyched on it.
I don't know what it is about his playing, like like a couple of years ago when like something like Dragon Force came around and all the guitar players were so excited, like, wow, we can use tremolo and dive bars and whammy. Mm-hmm. And like, that's OTT. That's too much for me. You're at an 8 or a 9. I need you down at 6. It's too much. And with Josh, he's not going at 8 or 9. He's just playing it how he would normally. He's not overdoing it. I love that. I don't know. I'm naturally a calm person. And just to see like, he's nailing it, like without breaking a sweat. I love that. And no, he's so fun to watch.
It's so reflective of his personality. Like you said, he's not going overboard to be too animated in the face or anything. I mean, he is when it's a difficult part or if he's just in a silly mood, but that is so his personality. Because every time we've done videos where I need him to talk, it's like, can you give me a little more? Like he doesn't really need to say anything. It's just like, just give him a bass. And it's like, yeah, this dude's awesome.
I love that. It just feels like you've got all of the right pieces for your crew. Yeah, and I can tell. I was going to ask you, where do you feel most comfortable? And it's clearly behind the screen, editing.
Yes, shooting, editing, and planning the content, and because at the end of the day, I'm probably the biggest Base Channel fan. Which is again another Lars Ulrich trait that it's not just music; it's building my whole career trajectory on how he did it. If you're not passionate about it and you don't, if when you finish, let's take the YouTube avenue, when you finish a video and you don't want to watch it, then you're doing something wrong. So I will admit I got to that point for probably the back half or the first half of 2021. It was getting to a point where it was just like, I just need to get something so I can have something. But now I've been kind of reignited with some new crew members who have the fire and doing this WA thing of, oh yeah, this was fun. I remember this used to be fun, because that was a piece of critique that came my way that really resonated with me of, I've been watching you guys for a long time, and this used to feel like a group of friends getting in a room to geek out about gear, and it doesn't feel that way anymore. And at the time that I read that, which I think might have been January or February, I was like, well, that's because that's exactly what happened. It used to be three, four friends getting in a room, having a good time, maybe have a couple beers, shoot some video, laugh. And then I kind of started to get, I went through a lot of different, processing with that comment, because yes, that's true. And I was like, but at least I don't think through any fault of mine. I don't think I pissed anybody off or offended anybody or anything, but like, it felt like some of that was like taken away.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, whether it be circumstantially or what have you. And it's like, how do I get it back to the place to where not only it feels like we're all having fun in a room for me, but it also shows on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're getting back to that place again, to where it's becoming fun just to make the content.
Thank you for sharing it and being transparent. Like, I didn't notice that, but I can tell that's really a heavy weight to carry. This segues into like the last set of questions I want to ask you, which is about how you deal with YouTube and just your whole mindset with creating content and videos. And like you said, it's been difficult to try and find that drive and motivation. And why am I doing this? And asking those difficult questions. And earlier you mentioned you have a goal for the channel. And I love that. And I think it's really important that you do have a defined specific goal. What is the ultimate goal for the base channel?
I mean, the ultimate utopia would be something along the lines of abandoning YouTube as a platform, as a destination, in favor of having our own website, our own server, and try to take as many similar genres with us. So like, let's again, kind of taking the community idea to its peak of, rather than base channel, Patrick Hunter, Base the World, Alfie Williams, like, how about let's all abandon YouTube, go to this new site, which it just so happens that the base channel is a all encapsulating idea and word and phrase that we can all coexist. And I can change the name. We'll call it Base Tube. I don't care. We can all exist in one location, to where you no longer have to worry about, is my thumbnail clickable? Is my title enticing enough? Because you're fighting for the attention of everything. You go to youtube.com and you have, millions of hours of content trying to fight for your view on the homepage. If we can ditch all that and just worry about making good videos with just titles that are, such and such base demo or such and such cover, not, is this the greatest distortion of all time? With the thumbnail. Like, if we can abandon all that collectively and just go to a place to where what you're getting, I think that would be really cool. And then, going back to having everybody on payroll, like compensating them for their time. Like, I feel like it'd be a good, like, we can all join our subscriber bases for the channels that are smaller than us, come up to our level. The channels that are bigger than us, well, we still have this that you don't have. So we'll all equal each other and hopefully be able to do some kind of advertisement, something with, I don't know, Zounds or Boss or EHX, and just try to figure out a way to make it, financially make sense for everybody, but also creatively make sense for everybody, to where you have the freedom to be a little bit more yourself and not have to fight the YouTube algorithm. One of my favorite YouTubers is Colin Scott from CS Guitars. And the last year, he's been ending his videos with, make sure to click all the buttons to make this video viable to the ever-changing whims of the YouTube algorithm. He's got a point there. It's ever-changing, and you can never master it because the rules are always in flux. If we can just eliminate that, I think that would be really cool for everybody.
That is, I've never heard anyone have such a dream like that before. I love it. It's, you must have some sort of business background to think about. You're not just thinking about YouTube. You're like, I want to be the Disney of bass.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. And what's funny is, not only do I not have a business background, I'm barely a high school graduate.
Well, I'm impressed. I think that is, you're not, like I said, you're not just thinking, how big can I make my channel? I want to get off the ship. I want to make my own ship. I love that. That's really impressive. Make
your own ship and invite everybody to come along and party with you,
What's the saying? A rising tide lifts all boats, or something like that.
Yep.
I was just going to ask you more about the technical aspects of making the video, so the writing and the planning.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's for the people who would, get into the nitty and gritty. I think we have a pretty interesting method of making a video from inception to completion.
I'd love to hear it. Like I said to you earlier, I want to learn just how people approach this YouTube thing and how they make their content. Walk me through a normal process for the base channel.
The two goals going into any video, particularly the demo videos, is it needs to be as informative as it is entertaining. And above all, it needs to sound good. So I'll pick we'll just use a pedal for this example, like a Walrus Audio Eras is the next one up. So I'll set that up through my little yellow reamp box that feeds into the pedal. There's nothing before it, nothing after it, out of the pedal into my Kemper powered rack unit. And I'll probably run it through some kind of SVT profile with CabSim DI Direct. So that's the signal flow every time. Mm. And of my 1,800 wiretap files, again, they're not all usable, I'll go through and kind of sample a few. And lately we have a number of players with folders now on my computer. Chuck Bailey, Dave Dixon, myself, Josh Dubois, Will Agtang, Nick Maffei, Johnny Flores, Lily Mitchell. There's a bunch of people that I'm like, I want to try to get everyone in at least once. However, there are certain players where like maybe their style just doesn't suit this type of effect. Okay, we'll get you next time. So that's kind of the goal going in. Then I'll kind of audition riffs. And this is where the entertainment value comes in. Like, what riffs have we not used in a while? What riffs sound really good with this? Like what's going to sound exciting, and kind of get those up to where now I'm kind of trying to edit myself while I'm making it, of like, let's just limit it to like 10 riffs and then we can whittle down, not 20, and we'll figure it out later. So then I'll run those. So I'll loop one, let it play, and then tweak, like, this is the best setting for this riff and this play style. Roll that, rinse and repeat 9 more times. Then comes in the, color correction of the video, the syncing up the archived footage, making the drum tracks, and just piecing it all together that way. And then shooting the B-roll, because I'm trying, again, kind of back to our point of coming out of this little valley, trying to figure out how to tastefully interject more humor and personality into the videos. And Dave has been a pretty big proponent of that, as has been Chuck. And I think part of my defense mechanism for what happened a couple of years ago was like, let's pull all the personality out so nobody's going to miss anybody who may or may not leave. You know what I mean? Because I considered doing an AI voice, like, just so I don't have to rely on anybody. And then I quickly realized that's a bad idea. But like, defense mechanisms make you make irrational choices. Some talking bits with some personality and some jokes. And then just so we get the information, just to save you time to not have to click a bunch of websites, let me just read you what the website says as well. Because, they're going to get it right. It's the information that you need. And you don't have to watch my video and then go to, Walrus Audio's website to then further research. And so for the read part is all the beauty shots, all the glamour shots, light it up, do all the cool little camera movements, and then just put it all together and then screw around with trying to make a clickable thumbnail. And then it goes up. So it's way more intensive and time consuming, not necessarily difficult, but tedious than it used to be back in the day of one player seated behind the pedal, slightly out of focus, pedal in focus, one audio track, one video, and then we just cut it all together. That was, I could do 4 of those in a week. And now it feels like it takes, not literally, but feels like it takes 4 weeks to do one, because there's so much syncing and layering and stuff that goes into it. I use Final Cut Pro. I'm all Apple, so add Logic to record it, bouncing it at 48 kilohertz and syncing it all up and finding your sync points. And it's definitely tedious, but you mentioned that you think that we're the gold standard, which again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So clearly it's worth it. I hope that more people feel like you do, because again, that makes it all worth it. Because while I am keeping in the ultimate goal of I'm doing this for me, we still want other people to like what we do creatively, right? Because kind of that's like half the reason that we do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean what I said, you are delivering a gold standard. And I totally know what you mean, where you wonder, is it really worth putting in the extra hour or extra day to do these final, this extra layer or another camera angle? And I think it does matter in the end. And I think, and like I said, that's what makes you better than everybody else and propels you into another level. So yeah, I know it sucks.
Every time I have skipped doing the extra mile, I've regretted it.
Yeah, me too. I don't want to tell you to keep doing more work, but I think it's worth it in the end.
Oh yeah, definitely is. Like I won't bore you with all the details, but we ran into some snags doing the live playing of me with these wah pedals, and we put 5 hours of work in on Saturday, only to find out that when I watched it back, I'm like, this is not good. We have to do it all over again. I'm so glad that we redid it, because what we're shooting now, that was the missing ingredient, which was playing to a click so we could put drums in. And rather than just play, I'm not that good like that, improvisationally. So it's like, I need to lock on to an idea or a theme. Even if that theme is NIB from Black Sabbath, it's something. So I went through and wrote every single wah. Okay, for this one, this riff would sound cool. I'll do NIB here. I'll do Sunshine of Your Love. I'll do Kiss God of Thunder. I'll do an original, and just made a riff or a theme for every wah. And I'm so glad that I did that extra step, even though I had to like regress back to square A as far as this part of it goes. It's going to be so worth it in the end.
It sounds like it. And I'm really happy to hear that. And I had the same sort of thing. I recorded part of a review or something like that. And I looked back at the footage. I spent all day recording, and looked at the footage, and I thought, this doesn't look right. I got to scrap it. I had to scrap it because it just wasn't right. And I knew it could be better. So,
yeah,
it's the best call, unfortunately. So well done. Chris, do you have any final thoughts for the audience? Any parting thoughts or suggestions or recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, going on off of this creative endeavor and keeping creative integrity, whatever avenue, whether you're, making YouTube videos, writing music, doing photography, whatever it is, I think the best thing that has served me, and that I've learned from the artists that I enjoy, is identify what it is that you want. For me, I got into this because I was just a gear nerd who wanted to see better bass videos. But if that's your goal, cool. If your goal is I want fame and attention, cool. If I want money, cool. Like whatever it is, just identify it and just keep working towards that goal. But more importantly is I just feel like anything creative needs to be self-serving first, because if you're pleased, you're going to draw that through line of integrity through everything that you do, to where even if maybe this work looks different, it was still for me, and the work evolved as I evolved. And this is just who I am, rather than, catering to the audience all the time to where, man, I hate doing these videos, but they're getting views, so I guess I'll keep doing them. Like, you're going to burn out so quick. So just, views, subscribers, attention, likes, dislikes, all takes a backseat to, do you want to watch this video that you've just made? If the answer is no, then don't release it.
No, because people can tell.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And Chris, I want to thank you for being with me today. Like I've been saying, I love the channel. You guys do brilliant work. It shows. Please keep it up. I can't wait to see the beginning of Wahctober, which won't be long now.
Yeah, coming up here. Oh, I got a lot of work to do still.
I won't keep you much longer then for the work. And you have an album that's come out, and that's on Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much anywhere that you stream or buy music online, you can get it. The band name is Lunar Satan. The album title is Evoco Serpentum. I played bass on every track. All those other guys are in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in Las Vegas, so we did it remotely. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it's all the Microtubes X Ultra, even the clean acoustic ballad. It was really fun. It was a huge amount of kind of just, boosting my own confidence as a player first, and second, being able to learn all of those songs by ear, because I made sure like to not ask him for, can you send me a video of the riff? So it's a work that I'm super proud of bass being my newest instrument, that I was able to do that. And the songs are, if you like Metallica and you like Ghost, I think you'll dig the album. I was so happy that it came out. It came out January of 2021.
Give me a link and I'll put it in the description, and everyone needs to check that out. That sounds my perfect bag. Ghost and Metallica. Count me in, dude. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. And I can't wait to see everything else the Bass Channel brings out. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.